And what happened was at the end of the weekend, I went and sat down a woman, a Muslim woman, and I was like, hey, like we just jumped in to October 7th. Like we just went in because we didn't
Mhm.
talk about that all day. It was like for me, it was like a lot of like on a spiritual level, the weekend was a deep spiritual prayerful weekend. But I wanted to know like where we were at. And we got into it, and it was honestly not the best conversation to have at like 2 in the morning. So we were like, okay, let's put a pause on this. The next day, we were ending the ceremony, and I'm sitting there in the temple, and I'm playing a song in Hebrew and Arabic that was originally written by Moshe Ben Ari in a band called Shevet, called Odyovo Shalom, which means there will be peace. There will be peace. Peace will come for us in the world. And so I started singing it in the temple, and the same woman started singing with me. She was like, "Oh my God, I love this song. I
Wow.
lived in Israel. I was a Shalom Hartman fellow. So the Shalom Hartman Institute in Israel, they do a lot of peace work between Israelis and Jews, and people come from
Mhm.
America and they come and learn there over the summer. So she came, and she said, just a few months ago, after October 7th, they canceled the program because
She was the Shalom Hartman fellow, or you were?
she was.
She was the
She was
Muslim
a
one.
Muslim
Oh
woman,
wow.
yeah.
Okay.
So she said, actually, Mikey, many of us here were in this
Wow.
room. So I said, that's interesting. I said, why don't we grab dinner? And I said, where do you live? And she goes, oh, I live in Orange County. I'm like, that's where I live. She lives 20 minutes from me.
Hmm.
So we ended up getting together, having dinner. I came to her house. She made an amazing dinner. Awesome, beautiful. She came to my house, similar thing. And then over back and forth, we started opening. She would open up the Quran, and I'd open
Hmm.
up the Torah. And we would look at the similarities of our faiths, and we would talk about, oh, it says here this angel, oh, I have an angel here. Oh, it says Abraham, oh, we have Abraham here. Like we were basically trying to, like, regardless of what people are saying, we wanted to find our own connection points within the scripture to see the
Hmm.
similarities. So over time that started happening. And what happened was we eventually invited their, she's a part of a community called the Pacifica Institute, and they're a Sufi Muslim community of Turkish descent, and they have, I guess, many different chapters, but one of their main chapters is out here. They ended up coming to our synagogue for an interfaith dinner. We went to them for an
Um,
iftar event, a Ramadan event.
tell the audience what iftar is. I know, but
I'm not exact. So the
it's when
event,
they break the fast, right? On Ramadan each
it was a
day.
break. It was a break the fast. Yeah, so I don't speak Arabic fluently, but it was a break the fast event on Ramadan. During the day, they don't apparently eat any food,
Or drink water.
water,
Yeah.
and this happens for, how long is Ramadan? It's like
It's a month,
a month,
which could
right?
be, I guess, 29 or 30 days. I'm not sure exactly. Meaning, I guess that varies, presumably.
Yeah, so it was about 29, 30 days, and but in the evenings when the sun goes down, it's permissible to eat. And so they had a big meal that we came together, and they
What we
did
call in
all,
Judaism a Sudama Seket. It's when the meal that you eat at the end of Yom Kippur. But they do it
similar,
like 29 or 30 days in a row. Yeah.
right, right. And to think about that practice, right, as a Jew, like we traditionally most people don't do that unless it's on very specific days. I know that I've heard of individuals, like, say, like biblically, if there were people who fasted for certain
Mhm.
periods, but the process of doing that every day, and who I was talking to, like my friend Brittany and my friend Daniel, who were there, and a bunch of other people, I could tell that they were on a different spiritual plane than when I met Solomon at the ceremony months and
You mean
months.
the Muslim? Brittany's a Muslim? That's,
Yeah, Brittany's a
okay.
Muslim.
Okay.
And then, so after doing that back and forth, the rabbi, the rabbi that I pray with at the synagogue that I'm at, he told me that after October 7th, his local mosque, like the imam cut off ties with him because he said it was such a tense moment. And
Yeah.
when I told the rabbi about this, he started coming to events, and we started having these conversations. And now the rabbi's like, we're together, and he's like, why don't we put on like a night of music? So we ended up
Wow.
putting on this beautiful night of music. This was 2 weekends ago, and it was called Shalom Salam. We brought together their
And
imam.
shalom, guys, that's the Hebrew word for peace, and salam is the
Yeah.
Arabic word. So,
Sorry, I should
right.
break things down. I'm
No, that's
obviously
fine. That's my job to translate.
cool, cool, cool. So it's called Shalom Salam, and which is really interesting because what we found out through the process of planning this concert is
Hmm.
there were many words that we say, obviously, like Shalom Salam, peace be unto you, and hello are the same, almost the same words. They sound similar, but like even the word ruach, like the word ruach, which means spirit, also um, and the word neshama, which means soul, they had, I don't have the exact translation, but they had other words that were very similar in us planning this.
Right.
That
So in Arabic, it's ruh, and I don't know what the Arabic word for neshama is, but I would imagine it's something like nisam or so. The sheen becomes a sin, and the sin becomes a sheen between Hebrew and Arabic usually.
which was,
So,
which, people would think like, oh my God, we're so different. But we actually come from the same Abrahamic father, and we actually share a mutual, our self-determination. We as Muslims and Jews, we have a tied in self-determination. And what I learned from
what
sitting
does
with,
that mean? A tight end self? I don't know what that means.
what I mean by that is that like our existence, we thrive. I think personally, we thrive when we all thrive. That I feel like there are too many echo chambers, both in Jewish communities and in Muslim communities that say Jews are evil, right? Muslims might say Jews are evil, and the same Jews might say the same about Muslims, or Muslims are colonizers or something like that. And although Muslims would say Israelis are colonizers, like they're the same arguments, but they're based on their it's there's not a there aren't enough conversations where we're trying to figure out how can we both build bridges, work together, because we're obviously none of us are going anywhere. Like if we think
That's a
that,
really interesting point. So, my father, who was an Orthodox rabbi,
yeah,
I once talked. I was doing a interfaith dialogue with Christians, and he did not approve of it. He said, "Look, we have our thing, they have their thing. Let's leave it alone. There's nothing good that can come out of an interfaith dialogue." And so make the counter argument. What's the argument of? Because I know there's some of my Christian listeners are saying, well, Muslims worship a moon god named Hubal, and and that's who Allah is, and so it's a different god. What would your response to that be? What's what good can come out of the interfaith dialogue with Muslims?
I'll put it another way. What would happen if we just stopped? Like we've stopped talking to each other, and because we stopped talking to each other, what has happened to the world? The world is broken. Like we need to all be in conversation. Doesn't mean that necessarily. So, for instance, over the course of the evening, they did their evening prayer,
Hmm.
and we went and we as a part of the concert, they went and they sat down and they did their prostrations, and we had the opportunity to observe like in a temple. Like, when are you ever given that chance to get to observe and get to hear them talk about their own faith and their intimacy with their God? Why
Hmm.
is it that we're in a place now where people say, oh, let them do their thing? Well, of course, we're going to have disagreement. If we don't have transparency about this is what we're up to, this is why we do it, then that's why stereotypes continue to form, because we think we know what they're doing, but we don't really understand why they're doing what they're doing. And in those conversations of those nuance, we can therefore approach conversation and prayer in a place of curiosity rather than projection.
I, that was so well put. Thank you. That you was really well explained. I once heard this interview where it was something in American politics, and they were asking this guy to explain to the other side. He said, "I don't want to explain to them. I just want them to be gone." And it reminds me of there's this line in the series The Wire where there's this character. He says, "You want it that other way, but it ain't that way. It's this way."